What I'm going to do in the span of 20 minutes is try to make the argument that perhaps the Great Recession, as it's been referred to, we're going to look back on and say it was perhaps one of the best things to ever happen to America. And the reason that I would be so bold to say that, and it is a bit trite, I guess, probably to say that, when you step back and look at the facts over what's happened over the last sort of 2 years, you've seen housing values erode by over 40%. $13 trillion in wealth has evaporated out of the economy. You look at unemployment, and it's anywhere between sort of 9%, as the official labor figures put them, anywhere up to 20% in places like Detroit, where I just visited recently. But the argument I am going to make is that there's a lot of hope and optimism out there, and in part it's driven by the consumer. This is a visual from a photo that I took in inner city Detroit. It's part of an art installation project, and the simple symbol there was saying that everything will be all right. We are believing, and our belief is that we're entering an era where values will define consumerism and will create competitive advantage. We are moving from an era from mindless consumption to mindful consumption. In a world where people have less disposable resources, both physical and financial, the marketplace is correcting business and will reforce capitalism to be about better instead of simply about more. And one of the things that we found in the course of our research was that there was this shifting thing that was happening right before the recession took hold. What we did is we went back and we looked at all the brands in our study, and we looked at what were the most important things that people were looking for in a brand. And what we tend to see is that what's on the outside, which is that green line, was an attribute measurement of things like stylishness, trendy, things that make me look good to others. But what was on the inside, the pink line, were things that were more about internal meanings, things about authenticity, about integrity, about dignity. And one of the things we thought that was quite interesting is that those two things crossed over even while the economy was still sort of taking off. And one of the posits that we have, or the philosophies rather, was that perhaps maybe what was happening is that we were becoming on some sort of level conscious of our excess, and we were trying to get ourselves back a little bit more in check. But other things were also interesting measures to us. We found that 79, almost 78% rather, said that money is the best measure of success. This is markedly different from our data from only 5 years ago, when money was very, very important to defining people's brand identity. And similarly, 76% of people said, I realize how many possessions I have does not have that much to do about how happy I am. Again, a reappraisal of happiness. And lastly, people are actually taking these values and using them into their sort of emphasis on consumerism, where nearly 71% of people said, I make it a point to buy from companies whose values are similar to my own. Nearly an equal number of people said they make it a point to step away from companies whose values contradict their own. So when we look at these sort of in aggregate, one of the profound things that we believe, and I'm forcing myself to strike it from my language, is the fact that there's no longer consumers in the post-crisis era. The consumer is a term that is a stereotype of a mindless, gobbling beast of indifference. A customer is quite a different thing. A customer is someone that needs to be catered to with the exact amount of respect and deference that we as business give towards shareholders. So in this environment, we also see a profound upside, which is a movement from more mindless consumption to mindful consumption, where the customers in aggregate are actually using their consumption to express their values in this post-crisis world and using their wallets with every bit of power as a vote in order to shape the conduct of business, in order to influence capitalism, and in order to sort of guide a more sort of sustainable world moving forward. So our hope is that when we look forward over the course of the next 2 years, moving out of the Great Recession, we'll see that a more values-led marketplace, or movement from sort of consumer of quantity into a producer of quality, is going to create a more healthy and sustainable world for all of us. Thank you very much.